Hi, listeners. I'm going to take a quote that I actually learned from my next guest, Robin Tate. It's by T.S. Eliot, and it means so much to me at this time in my life. The statement is, "The end of our exploring will be to arrive where we started and to know that place for the first time." I can't even tell you how apropos that is for this show. Robin is a trained coach with 10 years of teaching experience. She's a neurodivergent woman with a lifetime of personal and professional experiences with autistic, ADHD, and AuDHD adults. We'll talk about what that is, and neurodivergent relationships or neurodiverse relationships. This foundation of her lived experience and professional knowledge has shaped her unique coaching and education practice. Her work is trauma-informed, strength-based, and person-centered. She's passionate about educating and helping couples and individuals build safe, inclusive homes where each person can be authentic. Her website is robintatellc.com. And boy, do we get into it on this show. Thanks for listening.
I wanna try and take in all the highs, embrace them for more than a moment's time. I want you, please don't move when I push you away. I know I contradict myself some days, but will you ride the lows with me?
Welcome to Mental Health News Radio. I am your host, Kristin Sunanta Walker. Our goal is to help discussions about mental health be a regular part of your daily life, no different than discussions about physical health. Mental illness can be a topic of discussion under the umbrella of mental health, along with so many other topics. This show is the original program on mentalhealthnewsradionetwork.com. Our network of shows are played in over 180 countries and cover more topics under that umbrella than you can possibly imagine. We were talking about mental health long before it became cool and popular to talk about, and thank goodness it has become so popular. We have incredible guests, advocates, patients, experts, people. Thank you for tuning in and enjoy our intro music, a song named Lows, written by Aubrey Toon. You can find her music at www.aubreytoone.com.
That night when I started praying, I cried, will you ride the lows with me? Will you ride the lows with me? When I'm down, my vision gets blurry.
Robin, I am so excited to have you on Mental Health News Radio. Thank you for coming on.
I'm so glad to be here. I enjoy talking to you so much. This is going to be a great time. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And listeners, of course, I make relationships with people that I'm meeting to have on the show because that's why I even do the show. So I met Robin. I was introduced to Robin through Dr. Stephanie Holmes, which you all know and love. And her amazing podcast. So I'm excited about that. And then got on the phone with Robin, and we spent more time than we would like to admit publicly talking on the phone and relating and all those things. But what I'm finding in this community and the topic that we're going to discuss is how kind and carefully kind people, especially women in this community of neurodivergence, whether you're a friendly, meaning you aren't neurodivergent, but you're heavily entrenched in the field, or you are neurodivergent, which can be any number of things from dyslexia to ADHD to autism to, and the list goes on. But I find the community to be, for the most part, one of the safest, most loving places, especially among the women. So thank you, Robin, for being a part of that too.
Thank you. That's so well put. I know as years go on, and I keep identifying that is a solid truth that my most comfortable friends, colleagues tend to be as well. And that just in general, the community, like you said, is full of people that are either neurodivergent or have a connection in the neurodivergent world that's really valuable, important. And so then there's this purpose and friendship and camaraderie that's so powerful.
And
I'm
depth,
taken back by it time and time again.
yeah, and the depths at which you can go with people. I mean, we tend to, as women especially, and men do this too. It's just more common with women that we instantly go to, the depths of our soul. And what I have found is in the neurotypical world, when I have done that with someone, it's because they feel safe with me because I'm willing to just go there. And then sometimes later they kind of don't want to have anything to do with me because that was beyond what they were comfortable with after they think about what we discussed later. And I've just gotten used to that. I don't take it as a rejection. I just go, oh, well, okay. And I just let them have their space. I used to take it as rejection, but now I'm like, they need their space. But with anyone that's a friendly or neurodivergent, we just go there and it's all good.
Yes. Oh my goodness. I love, and this was one of the joys of talking to you. Sometimes it sounds like I'm talking to my thoughts. Like I'm like, yes, I thought that too. I thought that too. And I want to jump up and down. But yeah, the experience, because I think you and I shared that we were like, I'm 51 and I'm looking back through my life from childhood forward, which I think is exciting.
It is. It's so exciting to see something with a fresh perspective of your whole life and all these different situations you've been in, and to be able to look at it with a more critical eye, not critical as in shaming, critical like, oh, maybe if I looked at some of these things differently with this new information that I have about myself, maybe it won't be quite as painful as it seemed before.
Well, yeah. And I've worked with women that asked me to do this with them. And at the time I didn't realize, well, I've done it a little bit, or that I needed to even keep going. Right. But it was like the request from one woman, I'll never forget. It was, will you just work with me at reframing? Now that I know, she had just come into the self-diagnosis of being autistic. And she said, I would like to tell you stories, and then I would like to have conversations with you, like her life stories, her memories. I would like to have conversations with you about how that fits with what you know of strengths, challenges of autism in women. And I thought, wow, you want to pay me for that? Like, okay. And it was so powerful to be that person, and what an honor, right? To be in somebody's story with them like that, but also powerful for me of going like, wow, that's something we need to do to really get in touch with ourselves, to really have that understanding of who we are now, and take those moments that were painful and didn't make sense, and then put them into context. And so like when you say, well, I used to go into deep conversation and I've had this experience. So that's, I think, what set my brain off in many directions. But, like these moments in your life where you're like, this person, we had these deep conversations, and now they don't ever want to speak to me again.
Right.
I have no idea why. I don't think there was even a conflict. I cared about them deeply. Yep. And I'm just like left in confusion. And after years and years and years of that, the shame that we can experience. And just now, like in the last probably 10 years of my life, realizing, wait, there are people that welcome that and it fits.
That live for that are like, oh yeah, I can't wait. I'll go to a party on Friday night. Hell no, I'm going to sit down with my friend on the couch and we're just going to go at it in deep conversation for 5 hours. I'll take that over the dinner party thing any day of the week.
Please. Because the small talk, I just didn't really realize it. I didn't realize it. I don't do it. I don't know how. I caught myself one day sending an email and stopped, because I don't do pleasantries. I just jump in like, here's the thing I need to tell you. And I had to stop and realize like, whoa, that isn't always received. And you do that. Like my mind took it to this next level. Like, wow, you do that in conversation. You jump in with people wherever they are in their heart, like at their deep heart level. Everybody's not built for that.
No,
But some people are. Yeah.
some people are, and more people, I feel like, I don't know, this could be a chicken and the egg thing. More, and if I used that, I think that's a mixed metaphor. I don't even know what I'm talking about, listeners. I'm so sorry. I was gonna act like I'm so smart and saying, is that a mixed metaphor? I don't even know what a mixed metaphor is. So I'll stop trying to be smart.
You are
Anyway,
smart. Yeah.
but it's like you wonder, if, I don't know, you just wonder, like, all these things that you tried to be a part of and you tried to do and they didn't work out, but then you get welcomed with open arms into such a big community that hasn't been here before, or it was so silenced and siloed that you couldn't find it. And now with social media, and especially TikTok, it feels like women are coming out in hordes talking about how they're neurodivergent, and they're just discovering it now. And what I want to tell people is, there's no environmental thing that has happened, or if there is, it's teeny. It's not part of the big thing that is just making women become neurodivergent. No, you that's not how it works. We just we have places to share this information because of the power of social media being in your own hands. And so that is why we're having such a siege of diagnoses for people later in life, because we didn't have that when no one was going to tell me, oh, Kristin, you're autistic.
Oh, wow. No.
Because I'm 54. No, that wasn't even part of the language. So I just associated everything to trauma. I do these things because of the trauma I've been through that caused my brain to work differently, blah, 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 blah. And so everything was through a lens of trauma. And, you as a coach, I would imagine that you've probably run across that, someone coming in and saying, well, I had all these bad things happen, and this is why my brain's this way. And then they somehow found out, oh, well, maybe there's another, also that, because there's the trauma.
Yeah.
Maybe there's this other underlying thing that I was potentially born.
Yeah, that is me. That makes sense of the trauma. It's interesting that you say that, because I think I had that experience also in my life of making sense of the world and kind of the outcastness, just based on the things I knew that may cause me to be an outcast, right? Like not having any idea that the way my brain worked was unique. Now in hindsight, I can go the whole way back to as far back as I remember and see versions of my neurodivergence there and where they popped up. Right. But at the time I didn't know. So probably I'm thinking in my mental health journey, my own trauma story, which I believe all human, to be human, there is trauma, not that, degrees for everyone. And so not to minimize, people whose trauma might be more significant than others, but I just think sometimes life can be really harsh. And what we know of the brain, if you don't have a person in your story with you that you can process things with, we know that your body can hold trauma, and there's variation in that. But in my own story, I do think like the lens was not just trauma, but it was like, oh, we're poor, so that must be why we don't fit in. My mom's a single mom. Right. So that, that wasn't a big thing in the time I grew up. There was less of that. Divorce, or, we live in the country in a trailer. We don't have a lot of money, like things like I don't have the right shoes. I don't have the right clothes. It just didn't dawn on me until much later. And then it was anxiety in my 20s. Well, it must be because I have anxiety and I'm challenged with depression. That must be the reason. And then I realized, wow, I have ADHD, and that, like you said, is just a switch of you flip the switch and you're like, oh, I have, maybe all those things were true of me, and I have trauma, and trauma, there's so much overlap between being neurodivergent and trauma. Yep. And now we're just finally asking that question, like, well, why? Well, and doesn't it make sense if we were working so hard to be what people wanted us to be, to learn in ways that don't make sense to our brain, dress in ways that don't feel comfortable, right? Told we're too much, we're too chatty. Yeah. I mean, frankly,
Yeah.
I was in the hall most of my elementary career. So,
Yep.
so,
I was safely ensconced in Montessori school, which is like the dream
oh,
factory for a lot of neurodivergent kids. And then my own choice, decided 8th grade would be the time for me to go to public school like all the other kids. And it was a dumpster fire. And
oh,
high
I'm so
school was a
sorry.
dumpster fire. I mean, there was also the convergence of abuse and stuff coming out to coming into light at the same time. So there were other things too, but I know hands down that if I had
Yeah.
been put in public elementary school as a young child or kindergarten, all that
Mm,
would have been a dumpster fire a lot sooner.
yeah. Did you stay in the fire or did you go back? I'm just curious.
I say that again.
I said, did you stay in the fire? I think I meant public school.
Yeah.
Did you
Yeah. I
stay?
just stayed in the fire. Because
Yeah.
where do you go from there? And then by the time
Yeah.
I got to college, it was like, I think I told you when we talked, like
Yeah.
sitting down in a classroom, I immediately like have narcolepsy. Like I immediately
Mm,
cannot keep my eyes open. And it just doesn't work for me. I don't understand. I can't, there's too much pressure. I can't do tests well at all. I have to
mhm.
really psych myself out to do anything like that. It's not out of laziness, believe me, people.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's so much prep that goes into me being able to handle certain things. And then I'm like, well, why am I trying to smash my square pegness into this round hole. And why?
Mm,
There are other things that I can go do and be very successful at, like work, where I'm not going to feel like have all these deficits all the time. Which at the time I didn't see it that way. I just saw it as, oh, I can hide better if I go this way.
yeah. 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 And I am in awe of that. You're the second AuDHDer that I have met, that I professionally met, that I am like, you didn't go to school? Because we
No.
can see people out in the public lens as advocates or hosts on podcasts,
Yep.
and see the success and then so easily fill in the assumption.
Right.
And then then I stand back and I'm like, I mean, I think I said this to you. Well, you obviously didn't need school. Look what you did and how you accommodated yourself is awesome. Like that is the substance of, I believe, what neurodivergent kids need to know as possible, like teenagers, right? Like here are so many other options. Where are your strengths and how do we go push that into a career for you? And do you need a degree, right? Because
Right.
we're so focused on the reality that you need one. And again, I'm still processing that there are so many successful people in the world that did not achieve a degree. And, I think I shared with you that for me, I have learning challenges, which I kind of learned after the ADHD and a whole nother phase of my self-exploration. And I look back at that and realize, wow, it really was kind of miraculous, a lot of resilience, a lot of hard work. I put my back against the wall. I wasn't like in any sororities or doing a lot of fun. I had fun, but not a lot of fun, not to the degree that some people describe college, to survive and get through. And I always felt like I remembered getting graduation and just being like, wow, I still can't even believe I did it. And maybe some of that is the trauma of like not really feeling it, but just kind of having to get through.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, I want to bring you back to that question you asked me is, as a coach, do I see that? Yeah, I see it. I see the trauma and people acknowledging it in individual work with neurodivergence and the neurotypical people that I work with. I also see it in both people in a relationship. And some of that is, it's common that some of it is from childhood, but often it's the not having a diagnosis and having such extremely different working brains and not knowing that in the relationship that kind of like brings up the past stuff. We know, most of us know a lot about attachment theory in this, right? And how that creates an impact in relationships. So you see that kind of abandonment and attachment and anxiety all coming up
But then we've got this whole nother layer of who people are. I like how you said that, how their brains work. But we don't talk about that out in the world. We don't
Right.
talk about that in premarital counseling. And
Right.
so people get married and they have these assumptions of our brains are going to work, the same. We're going to organize the same. We're going to love the same. We're going to talk the same. And then it just doesn't happen. And that can cause a lot of friction. But yes, I see it. I see it professionally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to find out, like, because it would have helped me so much, but I have to give a shout out. And Stephanie, I hope you'll listen to this show, even though I know you're so busy. I give Stephanie so many compliments, but this is what I love about neurodivergent communities. How I set up this network was, look, you can be on as many networks as you need to. The whole goal of this is to just push forward the ability to talk about mental health, all aspects of it, from addiction to autism to Munchausen syndrome to depression to whatever, everything under the mental health umbrella needs to be talked about. So people would say, aren't you worried about competition? No, I welcome it, because that means there's more people talking about this thing. It's not about me and becoming this whatever. And that's what I find in this community happening more often. Like Stephanie, she also does couples coaching and things like that you do as well. And yet here she is, saying, Robin, I want you to meet Kristin. Robin, I want you to do this and get you out there, because to her brain works that way too. Oh, she's not my competition. We complement each other. We talk about different things. We come from a different space within the same space. And yay, more people will get help.
Yes. And, you just said that so well. And my heart is just like overflowing with excitement that, I moved into this field because it fit my life. I didn't know at the time I did it, the degree to which I was accommodating myself. And I had no idea that I was going to have just the level of contacts that I've made, the quality of people, the love and reception, and the mindset that I've always had is, I have no reason to compete with you, because you have strengths that I don't have, and I have strengths that you don't have. And together we just can create just a better community. And that is exactly, and Stephanie, and Stephanie isn't the first, I have a series of women who just kind of, I have to say, pushed me off the ledge, because I have such bad anxiety. And I also have a history of trauma that I really in the beginning wasn't recognizing. I've been working on it more and more in the last couple of years, but I was terrified to even just take my first coaching client. And so it was the strong women who had already been in the field. And it's been kind of like allowing myself for the first time to take some of their faith, Stephanie's, yours, and go do that next right thing. And also checking in with myself and saying, okay, I know they see this in you. Do you see this in you? Are you okay with this? Yeah, I could do that. I could do that next step. And it's just done nothing but lead to powerful, things that are helping me, that are helping other people. And I think that's the gift. We're helping each other as we reach out, and we're helping others grow, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. And I don't want to mar or say anything negative about neurotypical communities, because we dealt with, I'm not including you. I'm just saying those of us, in neurodivergent land, because that's the diagnosis, we have been stigmatized and all these things for so long. I get angry for sure at some of the bullying and things like that I've dealt with, but then I don't want to turn around and then bully those who bullied me. And even though sometimes I'm sure I have. So I try to be, consciously aware of how I say things and what I say. So when I say this, it is that the worst bullying and all of that, and the jealousy amongst women and the tearing another woman down stuff has happened between me and neurotypical women. I've had it with neurotypical men too, but the most bulk of it has been with neurotypical people. And so I find that fascinating because yes, there's that in neurodivergent areas too. It's not like, oh, you become this pure being if you're neurodivergent. It isn't like that. There's that stuff there. But the tendency to be kinder, to be welcoming, to be gracious, comes out of the fact that we have been bullied to death. Literally for some people, true. That we just don't, we're just a little more maybe evolved, even though I hate using that word, but we're more understanding in those ways. And so we don't do that when we're in this community where we really, are amongst our peeps.
Yeah. Or people that are also neurotypical, but invested and really, really get it.
Yes.
Those people are all around us too, and it can feel just as comfortable. But I do agree with you, but I think we know in general, right? I'm always looking for common elements of brains, period, because I think it pulls us together to remember we're human. Like we're all people, we're all human. That's our basis foundation, right? And as people who experience hardship, when we've had that experience, we come out of it most times, or a lot of times, with much more ability to be caring and to offer compassion, action, right? Actions of love that they're just so authentic because we have the internal experience as well as the external experience. Right. So I think some of the, and I would say most of the people that I've been hurt by either think they're neurotypical and they're forcing themselves to be neurotypical and then putting that expectation right on themselves and then on everyone else and offering compassion to them. They don't even know that they're neurodiverse and they've probably been raised in an authoritarian home. And so they were told, like, here, do this. I don't want you to be bullied in the world. You have to conform. So they've either fallen into that group or they've fallen into the group of, neurotypical majority, which has been trained like, this is the way. Come on, get it together. Oh my gosh. If I had $1 for every time I heard this, she's too loud. She's a lot. She talks too much. She interrupts.
Yeah.
Right. So I would say those are the two groups, but I have come to the place to realize, and I think I'd said that as I was processing was, it's not with intent.
Right.
It's not with intent.
Yeah, the intention. And I learned that from a friend of mine who is just now realizing that her borderline personality disorder diagnosis is actually not correct. She's autistic. And all of these medications that she has been taking, not all of them, but many of them to help her with that and bipolar and other things, may not have been the correct way or a lesser version of it because she did have just an unbelievable amount of trauma. There's this huge missing piece though, and how she would have been treated missing because that autism piece was missing. And she actually came to this realization when I told her that I was just diagnosed. She went to her she's a former military person, so she went to all of the doctors and everything that she goes through that way, and they all went, oh my God. I mean, thank God, because this is not everyone's journey. They all went, oh man, yes, you are autistic. Oh my, okay, we need to do a complete workup of everything and change things and blah, 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 blah. But she's the one who taught me about intention. She was like, Kristin, the intention is different. Like when you've been too blunt or when you've done this or that or the other, where was your heart? Was it to harm? Was it to, where was your intention is different from this other person that's doing it to wound. And they're doing it to wound, not out of their woundedness because they like to wound.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting that word intention is such a huge, big word for me right now. Like, oh, okay, get it, get it. That's how I treat
Yes.
myself all the time.
Oh, and I want to go back to your friend and just say, oh, what grief and how sorry. I meet a lot of people that have been misdiagnosed, won't go into counsel, won't ever go back to a counselor because of the mental
Yeah.
health labels and don't really know what's going on. And so that in and of itself is just such a big, big part of what's happening. And it always grieves me. And then it makes me feel like what an honor that I get to sit with you now as you explore who you are in a
Right.
different way that's not like pathologized. So I'm so glad she had that experience. And I just really hope that now she's doing, exactly what you and I started off talking about, of reframing, walking through, going, wow, I had a young woman work with me for a little while, and she said, Robin, that's just how my brain works. That's it. That's what it's been all the while. Oh my gosh. I can't wait to tell my mom, because you know how many therapists I've seen? And I was
Yeah.
like, I listened and let her, and I said, yes, it's just how your brain works. And she was just like, okay, wow. And I thought, wow, in that moment, that's huge. And so I am always want to say I'm sorry to any woman or man that is neurodivergent, any person, and had that experience of being put on meds that didn't fit you, or given labels, or being told, and I had that experience, that it's all anxiety and depression, or, oh,
Right.
you have a personality disorder.
Yep.
It's happening so much, and way too much still. And again, compassion. Therapists aren't being trained. I was not trained in my therapy program at all about looking through a neurodivergent lens. That was not part of it. So we just have to keep talking so people hear us, and trainings happen. And I know they are happening, and just keeping safe for people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll pause there. I'm sorry. I was going to go
No,
into
no, no.
your intent.
No, I
So,
love it. I love it. It's so true. It was making me, it made me see where kind of my litmus test is, because, when I talk to younger therapists, and they tell me, what they've been learning, and the education they have around what are personality disorders as described today in terms of the DSM, and just within the field, what is autism, what is ADHD, what is trauma. Obviously we want to see younger generations going through school, having updated curriculums.
yes, please,
And
please,
and I
please.
can say that I just spent time with one who is in her very early 30s or late 20s, who learned maybe a page worth of autism related to men, nothing really about autistic women. And that was like, oh, okay. So that's that age group where she was in school was 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
That was what was being taught then. And she's had to educate herself more. So I want to talk to some that are in their 20s and they're still in school, and what are you seeing? What are you learning?
Yes.
And see where we're at, not to judge them, but to be like, okay, that's where we're at there. Interesting.
Yeah.
Right? Has it caught up with the voluminous things that we're getting out of TikTok, with real people saying, this is what I'm dealing with? Is it matching with what we're seeing in society, or is it still off? And all that stuff just is like, ooh, it's like a chocolate fudge sundae. I love it.
Yummy, yummy. It is. It's exciting. It's an exciting time. It is an exciting time in the field of neurodiversity, period. And an exciting, I just said to a best friend, one of my best friends, it's such an exciting time to be me. Right. And what I'm
Yeah.
saying,
And I do.
yes. Yeah. Well, because we get to be in this time where talking about, we're really like not far from the first people that have been talking about being neurodivergent, ASD1, ADHD, and the very subtle learning challenges, the subtle displays, the overlap. The IQ does not match or have anything to do with this. We
Right.
exist in all IQ levels. there's overlap of symptomology. Our intentions are good and we're making mistakes. And guess what? Let's go next level here, people. We're going to just keep adding to this Sunday.
Yeah.
We have a culture that within that culture, we all get each other and we belong. And that means that our culture isn't wrong. It means it's just a different culture. And so, if I could recreate the world right now, and recreate the way culture is, I would say what we need is in every level, in every subculture of our society, is a rethink on what typical is, right? Is it even a thing? And that's not to minimize or take away. I'm going to get pushback on this from diagnostic labels or even self-diagnosis of, whatever your neurotype is. It's not to say that they don't exist at all by saying, oh, there's no neurotypical. That's not what I mean. But what I mean is there's diversity among human brains. And so in every environment, in every, religious area, in every school, in every work arena, in every home, if we were saying, okay, what are your strengths and challenges? And how do we accommodate those? And how do we, make our lives in this environment work for every person? Wow, wouldn't that be cool? It'd be so exciting to me.
I know. I thought the other day, and I posed this question to a very large group of neurodivergent women, which was, what would the world look like to you if we were the majority?
What did they say?
Nothing. Crickets. It's been 4 days. And this is I think I know everybody in it, but they're very, these are people that will really think about this and take it in. And they always answer at least some things very quickly. And there's been nothing because how do you even answer? You have to really think about it. And what if we find out that we are the majority with all of this stuff that's coming up? What if we actually find out that we actually are the majority?
Wow, that just gave me chills.
Woo, wouldn't that be a trip?
But what we've been all masking, right? We've all wow, wouldn't that be a whole rethink on
what
things,
if there were more X-Men than not? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Wow. That just kind of blew my mind. I was tracking with you with ideas like, what if we were in charge? What if we ran the world?
There's a thing for our book that we will one day.
Yes.
What would the world look like if this, really, it would be fascinating to see. Oh, when listeners, if you didn't watch X-Men, I'm sorry, but Dr. Xavier goes into this big machine and he's able to all the lights that show up on this cylindrical machine or this sphere show him where all the neurodivergents are on the planet as opposed to neurotypicals. And it's always like 1,000 to 1. What if we did that now and the 1,000 to 1 was the flip side?
Yeah. Wow. Wouldn't that be cool? Yeah. Wow. I'm taken back to.
And where does trauma, because we know studies showing, trauma changing the way your brain works, and it changes you in ways that look just like ADHD, that look just like autism, that look just like these other things. So can you be neurotypical your whole experience up to a certain point and then have some kind of horrible trauma happen and your brain changes and now you sort of are walking between these two worlds? What does that look like too? And is that even a possibility? Am I just, speaking out of my rib? Who knows,
Well, right. Yeah. I know there's people out there saying, well, the trauma, you can be traumatized in the womb, right? And then there's people saying, well, the research supports that, ADHD, dopamine, autism, all of these things, are genetic based. But we also then have epigenetics saying look, your environment can influence your genetics. So if you, if you put all that together, is it possible, here's my fluid reasoning happening.
Exactly.
Going into overdrive. That's why I really enjoy our conversations. But if you put all that together and you put it in the womb, is it all possible? Right.
Right.
we don't know. And then what does that mean as an adult? Could you develop these things? We've always thought no, but I think we have to be open to the possibilities, right? Because it's the
Agreed.
first time we're looking at brains and going, wow. And this is my very, very favorite. It's why I chose coaching as a profession and coaching and education versus, a counseling model, is just working with people where they are, where their strengths and challenges are, getting them, because we work, I work with great thinkers, people who think in so many directions and are just so smart, whether their IQ test shows it or not, whether they got through school or they didn't, and moving into doing, right? Like, so what does this even mean? This is how my brain works. What does this mean? How does it impact my life? How do I create an enriched, valuable, purposeful life where I'm not walking around, in shame and trauma and guilt over being human, and you and I, when we were talking the last time, I keep being struck by how many times I said, I'm sorry for things that you were like, stop, like, did I talk too much? Oh my gosh, I interrupted you. Oh, I don't know when to join in. And you were like, it was just this like amazing relief that one, you got it. And two, you're like, it's okay. And I thought, wow, just as I've been in the midst of looking at childhood trauma, things that have happened through my lifespan, anxiety, depression, what do those mean? As well as even I'm in this discovery phase of, because I know the overlap of autism and ADHD and learning challenges, what those look like, and the possibility that, oh, I have some autistic traits. What does that mean?
Right.
But when you were offering me that kind of compassion, I was like, oh my gosh, just when I thought I recognized myself so much, I didn't even realize those responses I have and how embedded they have become in me. And so,
yeah, but also you're so kind. Like, that's what's so cool. I mean, you you do it so much. How do I say this? The way that you do this thing that you do, is, I would never feel defensive or like, oh, I need to go and deny what she's saying to me, because of the way you say it, which is why I know why people flock to you as a coach, because you ooze compassion. Like, I'll bring up something, that happened to me, and the first thing, like, you've done it already on this show multiple times. First, I want to say, I'm so sorry that these people went through blah, blah, blah. Like, you do that so well that it makes the person talking to you immediately feel safe around you, which is why you were called to be a coach, right? Because that's what you do. And that's not that, sure, people can be taught to do that, but it's a very different experience when that just innately comes from someone. And I would say that comes from your I'm sorry. And so I would say, be very careful how you navigate that for yourself, because part of what makes you that is the fact that you come from that place of I'm sorry. So yes, there's a way to not say you're sorry all the time for yourself while honoring it still, because that very thing that you do there to yourself is what also helps you light up as a coach. Does that make any sense at all?
Yes. Oh, you're gonna make me cry. This is such a powerful, this is awesome. I love talking to you. Oh, it's so good. And I hope this has a great impact on other people.
Yeah. We can be so kind to each other.
Yeah.
Community. It's so, like, it's almost like I have had, well, it's not even almost like, I have hidden how kind I actually am. And part of my mask was to not be so kind, because people didn't take it well in younger years. And in this community, it lands so well, so I don't have to mask that I'm not really as kind as I am, which just sounds so funny, but that's just reality. That is reality for me. I've hidden how exuberant I can get, and oh, I love this person, and oh,
I know. I almost said, I love you. Thank you so much for saying that.
because you feel like, oh, you're gonna make somebody uncomfortable with how.
Yes.
I remember hearing Jennifer Garner, who I wonder about her, but I remember her saying,
I see it. Yeah.
yeah, I remember her saying, I totally do. I see the autism there. Absolutely. And I'm sorry, I'm not outing Jennifer Garner. I know nothing about her. I could be completely wrong. I'm not a
Yeah.
diagnostic.
We're sorry. We're sorry.
We're sorry, but I mean it in the best way, that she was talking about how, yeah, I've had to work with Ben when she was married to Ben Affleck. I've had to work with Ben on my, we go to a baseball game, and the mascot for the baseball game comes running over to us to say hi. And I realized that I would say to him, okay, I get it. I don't have to like leap out of my seat, scream, throw my arms in the air, hug the bear like I'm 3 years old when I'm a 40-year-old woman. Like, I've had to learn how to tone it down. And when I think about that thing that she said, I think I totally get that.
Yeah, but you know what? Like this, I was just going to say, like the joy of understanding that, yourself, like one of my traits, and I think it falls into ADHD autism, which I am driving myself crazy here trying to tease them out. So we'll have to talk about that again someday. But I'm going into the weeds, like all the details. People have been calling me out. Robin, chill, please relax. But I love it. Like I love being in that zone, and I want to figure it all out. But anyway,
one of the amazing things that I have started to really love about myself, and actually think I've had, there's been positivity around that for most parts. Some people know, oh my gosh, you're so immature. Are you really being like that? Well, they're not my people. That's what I think of myself now. Girl, those are not your people. Like, and sorry, they're not having that much fun when they see a waterfall or a rainbow.
Right.
There is no way I'm withholding that experience from myself anymore. I have had so much shame and so much difficulty and so many challenges in my life that if I get to experience the richness of a rainbow on a different level than you do, or if I get to, go hug a mascot and be so excited or shout, I love you at somebody I just met at the grocery store, then I try to do that a little less. But, that's the cool part of being me, right? Like that's not the learning challenges. That's just such a natural, like authentic pleasure. And I don't want to miss it. I don't want to miss it. I don't want to discourage other women from having it. And there are some people that aren't neurodivergent that enjoy it right? Like our humor and our wit or our depth of feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I can see where, I'm rolling around. I just used this with a new podcaster coming on the network that's so brilliant. He's just wonderful. He does a show on addiction, and I'm so excited about him coming on the network. But we were talking about this very thing and how, yes, have I been preyed on more because of this? Hands down. And right now I'm grappling with, I need to be angry and allow myself to be angry, but it just not going into my bones, which is kind of nice. It used to just like to go into my marrow. It's not like that. It's more of just like a surface anger that I know is temporary. And once I work through it, it'll leave. At some of the people who absolutely knew that there was something different about me. And they were like, ooh, she's going to be fun to mess with.
Yeah. It's interesting that you say that because it came up for me while I was listening, and your kind words about who I am will forever be etched in me. Like, I just love words, and it's compliments. I don't think were such a thing, when I was younger. I really think I've moved into this phase of my life of hearing good things about me, but I've always captured them.
It takes time to get to the place when you've been so under a rock in so many ways to be okay with compliments.
Well, yeah. And that's the thing. Did I not get them? Did I not receive them? Who knows? But I received them, and I received them so deeply. And words, I would say is one of my love languages. So I appreciate that. But the abuse that happens to neurodivergent women, and I can't help but call it that because it can be, right? It's not always, the intention is not always there. And yet there are people that have that intention and they see goodness and they see naivety and they see kindness and they see it as weakness. And so
Absolutely.
then, or they see it as, well, I would like to have that thing and I don't have it, so I'm going to try to take yours.
Yes.
And, unfortunately, I think you highlighted this so well when you were saying, oh, Robin, you do this well. Yay, that made my heart tingle again, sparkles. But your gift can be your challenge, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I never thought about it as, someone said to me once, Robin, you're not a nuisance, because I'm always like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Let's rethink this. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And I have gotten so much better. I'm still growing at that, but I didn't really see it. You're right. It is my strength. It is my challenge. It is my vulnerability that people will see it. And I don't want to stop being that, because coming from a childhood that just really was not always safe in many, many ways, the first time ever somebody said to me in a room, like in a group, that I was safe, and then a client saying, my wife said, you're safe. You're the one safe thing. I need to keep going. And then you saying it. And I don't do that. Like, I'm not soliciting that. Right.
Right.
So there is
other people are
greater
noticing of you.
Oh, there's no greater compliment. Like, if that's who I'm going to be in the world, then that is amazing, powerful. That is payment, right? Like that's who I want to be.
It's amazing. Oh yeah. Keep going. I'm sorry. But
well, no, thank you. But there is that caveat, right? Like, and you said it is there's vulnerability in it.
Yeah.
And there's people that see that. And then there's people that will try to, and I've had that, I attract that also. And it's very hard for me sometimes to believe and sometimes to see. I'm really getting better, and I'm trying to help clients get better at identifying concrete behaviors that are flags, because concrete behaviors we can't really argue about, right? Like, we can go, oh, and there's research to support certain behaviors. Like, people who aren't safe don't do these things. Safe people do these things. Does that make sense?
Yes. It's like this. It's like, okay. I was just speaking about this with this guy I'm mentioning, how there's situational narcissism, right? So you can be a heavy in the throes of addiction, right? And you are behaving like somebody who has a for real personality disorder, but it's really situational because of the addiction and being in the throes of it. And once you get out of that, you start repairing those relationships as best as you can. You realize that you probably are neurodivergent, and that's what happened. That's where the addiction, where you were, going to go that road. I mean, there's just so many things to explore there, but like, it doesn't mean that you're always this. You weren't born with this disorder, right? With the personality disorder,
yes,
that looks like narcissism or whatever. It's situational. And what neurodivergent people tend to do is we understand that. And so we're very forgiving. We're very understanding of all of these different things to do with what makes a human being behave the way that human beings behave. We're much more understanding than, say, the neurotypical community. And so we, we'll put up with, I'll say that sparingly, because put up with means, just talking to someone who's struggling with addiction, like, oh, we put up with you. I don't mean it that way. I just mean, we will take it on the chin a lot more than neurotypicals. And that's a wonderful, wonderful thing, but it isn't wonderful when you're wandering around and you don't really know who you are yet. And so what's been so empowering for me, because my God, and my listeners can attest, I mean, I had just one person after another, and at times hordes of people that were just very abusive, whether it was situational because of what they were going through, or it was that they legit, have some kind of personality disorder. It just seemed never ending. But I think what happens is we try so hard. We are trying to figure out what is up with us. So I think of it like Shel Silverstein's circle with the pie slice missing. We're just going through
Yes.
life and we're told, oh, when you meet that other person, that's going to fill the hole. And that we all know, yeah, that's called codependency. That is not.
Yes.
But for me, finding this piece out, which has had which I still struggle with. So it's not like it's all daisy chains and roses. It has its struggle finding out that I'm autistic. But I feel like, oh, I just found that thing. I rolling around long enough. And at 54, I rolled into that pie slice, which makes the whole thing different for me. So now I feel like knowing this, even though it comes with stigma and all kinds of things, I feel like I'm now prepared to know the difference between someone who's a predator and someone who is in a situation where they're behaving not great. And I can stand up for myself because I know who I am. Flaws. I can be an advocate, like how good of an advocate I can be for other people. I can also now be that for me because I know who the hell I am now. Like, oh, okay. And it's not limiting. I'm not myself in a box of autism. No, I don't do that. It's more like, okay. I was wandering around blind and now I see.
Yes. That's so well said. And I got just so excited for you because I know that how long have you been diagnosed with autism?
About 2 months.
Yeah, it's new, right? I was going to say 6 weeks. I wasn't too far off, but it's so new for you. And then so to hear like the impact of reframing your life and then to say, I know who I am now. And all of a sudden it makes sense. And I think that's what is making you like so relatable to me. I think I had that moment with the ADHD at 30. I was like, oh my gosh, I belong somewhere. This is who my dad was. He was all over the place. Now I get it. This is who, why I have struggled at school or why people said this or that. And then, so I don't know. For me, it's been this progressive, and then learning challenges, oh my gosh, that's why they barely let me out of high school. And
that's why I was on the 7-year high school program or whatever.
Or the every single math class I ever took, including, and I think this is funny, you have to have a sense of humor to get through life, I believe, including, don't worry, Robin, all you have to do to be a teacher is take teaching math to elementary school kids. And I thought, okay, we'll see, maybe that'll go well. Nope, had to do it twice also. Yeah. And then, at some point, people say, try harder, try harder, try harder. And I think that's the message of all neurodivergence, right? We have that in common. ADHD, autism, dyscalculia, dyslexia, all of them, dysgraphia, dyspraxia, let me keep going, right? But all of them is that we're told, try harder, be this, why don't you work harder? And you're like, I am working so hard.
I work harder than the neurotypicals sitting there, even though they're brilliant and they do amazing things, but they don't have all of what is going on underneath the surface.
Yes.
To them, which is why they probably can't. I always looked at people and I thought, how do they it just seems like, even though they have the issues and traumas and all the same things that everybody else does, but it just seemed like, God, they just have a lot of things go their way. And that just seems like that's how it should be. And why don't I have that feeling? I do now, but why can't I have just things go my freaking way?
Yeah. I love that you just said, I love so much that you just said, I do now. I was like, ooh, let that sink in. I do now. Yeah. And that's the reason, that's the reason. And I think those of us that are strong enough to talk about, look, I know this is just how my brain works. I'm not going to have shame in that because finding that out has helped me create a life that feels valuable to me. It's given me a place in the world. It's given me a voice. It's helped me to heal the past hurts that have happened. And now, we're in a place to be reaching back and helping younger women come up in a different way. And so it doesn't happen to me now is a great mantra because it's saying I get, you said this, I get who I am, maybe for the first time in my life. and why would that be shameful? It shouldn't be.
Right.
And I think that,
Yeah, for me, I still actually, it's interesting because I'm like, oh, there's slivers for me that are still happening. And I wonder, maybe you had mentioned, my friend said about intention, right?
Right.
And I heard you like exploring this idea of like, what is intention to me? Or I behave this way. And is it this or that? Or is it just because of autism? And I'm like, oh no, look, I do these things. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's what I like, but I have done these behaviors. But wait, my intent was never to cause a bad impact on
Right.
somebody. As a matter of fact, I didn't even realize, maybe, at least I know I haven't, speaking for myself, sometimes realize I had a negative impact. And unfortunately, sometimes people don't stick around to explain it to you unless they
Right.
realize, that they just leave. And you're like, whoa, where did those people go? I used to have so many people.
Oh, and that
Yeah.
happens so many like of those breakups. I mean, I think back on like a wedding in my 20s that I went to. First of all, please don't ever invite me to be a part of a wedding. I don't want anything to do with it. That's like asking me to wear a hair shirt and whip myself for however long this wedding takes.
yes.
No, and no. I will come and say hi. I would prefer not to even go to the wedding.
Yes.
Because it's way too much simulation, but I will, but don't ask me to be in it. But I had someone tell me that or not even tell me, they told other people around me that I ruined their wedding. And you hear those things happen in your life and you're like, I must be bad. And when I look at it now, I go, well, wait a minute. You mean all the stuff and the drunkenness and the sexual assault that happened, not to me, but to somebody else at this venue, and the I won't even go into detail, the behaviors that were going on. I think a lot of us, we are in real life situations like that, right? And yet, because you're the one that says, this is wrong, like, this is not
Yes.
okay, everybody that's in it can go, oh, yay, we have a scapegoat. We don't have to take any accountability for all those horrible things. And when the police came and took someone away, and that was part of the wedding too, it's still all your fault, Kristin, even though I wasn't involved in that. Because
Yeah.
people are looking for, a scapegoat, and who's the easiest one to scapegoat? The neurodivergent person.
Oh, the truth teller, right? And the person
Yep.
who's so you and I are different in that I love a party, like loud. I love it, love it, love it, love it. But getting dressed, all of it. But you're right. I have that same quality of like,
It doesn't even dawn on me that you would not want to know. Like, it's so, and
Yes.
I just, one of the things, you're exploring your intent. I've been told, Robin, do you know you're literal? And I was like, whoa, no, I had no idea. And so I've been like, I am literal. Wow. Okay. What does that mean?
Right.
But that's one of those things. Like, I just can't understand that if something is just right, like in my mind, it's a non-negotiable truth, right? Like, women should not be sexually assaulted, and anybody around them should advocate. They should yell it from the rooftops and protect them at all costs, right? That to me is not negotiable. I can't even comprehend. There's not a person on the planet that wouldn't back me up on that. So I'm calling it out in the minute. I'm calling the police. I'm doing like whatever needs to be done. And this has happened to me, if you went to school with my children, or your children, you were one of the people. I do this in every environment, if it's logical, if it makes sense. But the reaction is exactly what you said. I never thought of it like that. It's like the black sheep now, right? Or the scapegoat. Yes. You just all of a sudden don't fit, but you were doing the right thing.
Well, you get used to just kind of being whipped that way. And for some people, that means I'm just going to be quiet and not ever say anything. And that causes all kinds of other issues to pop up whenever you shove your light underneath a barrel. That happens as well. And there are situations where somebody needs, like my one friend who I mentioned earlier, she legit has to say, okay, I'm going to go to this event.
Mm-hmm.
Not going to say what I see because it's with my family. And so, yes, are there situations where you need to do that? For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Because it's the spectrum.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, and just like you said, you love a party. I'm like, will I go to that? Do fine and do whatever it is, but I'll need like 7 weeks to recover from that one event. So it's all different in how we process. It's just, to me, it's the kinder place to be in. If I never thought of myself as being part of a group, because to me that was always like, and now I'm a part of a group. And it has its yuckiness to it, just like anything, because we're all human. But for the most part, well, not even the most part, I absolutely feel like I belong, and I know that you do too. And that is lovely. Like, I can deal with the BS that comes in anything, because how much BS have we already dealt with in our lives? We notice all of it.
Yeah. Oh gosh, we notice all of it.
Oh gosh, do we notice when to say something and when not, and how to say it and what degree to say it, and where some people are like, it was just a great party and I didn't notice anything. What are you talking about? And you're like, excuse me?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's certain things I'm not really good at not saying. Unfortunately, I'm still working on that. I noticed as I've gotten older,
and when I say I like a party, I probably like a party when I know all the people there on a one-on-one level, or I have a group that I know on a one-on-one, because I definitely do better in a group if I've met most of the players that are going to be there, right? Or I have a couple safe people that I enjoy their presence and just feel really comfortable in being myself with them. But I forget where I was going right there for a second. I'm sorry.
Welcome to ADHD listeners. You are listening to it right now.
Man, I hate when that happens.
That is okay.
But you know,
it's so
the reality.
That's how our brains work. Yeah, it's wonderful. Okay, so I want, because listen, Robin and I, obviously listeners, we can go on and on and on, and it's been an hour, so we'll wrap up now, but she will be on again. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm trying to talk her into at some point doing her own podcast. That would be awesome. That's probably down the road. So it's just, I planted a little seed, and we've talked about writing a book and all kinds of cool things. But she will be on again, which is fantastic. But for now, I need you to know how to find her, because whether it's a couple, neurotypical, married to someone on the spectrum, or that's neurodivergent in some way, or two neurodivergents, or someone that just needs to know because they have a family member on the spectrum and they want to understand them. There's so many ways that Robin can help you navigate those journeys. And let me tell you how profound it is to have that in your life. So I need you to know how to find her. So Robin, please share where people can find out more about you.
My website is the easiest, robintatellc.com. Very simple. And I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, as at the Neurodiverse Couples Coach.
Love it.
How you can find me there. Yeah. I love to connect with anybody, and I love all your ideas. That's so exciting for me. And yeah, we could talk. We could keep talking, but thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, I always think it's lovely in the day and age that we're in, and where there are so many squabbles between people, just furthering the agenda that needs to become the norm, where women get along, women promote each other, women lift each other up, women stand in their own power, and then gracefully let someone else borrow some of that power if they're needing help, and it's okay. I mean, any way that we can show two women connecting in the way that you and I connect, and the way that you connect with other people, and same with me, that's a great model for the world that is so,
Yeah, we always need one person ahead of us, right? Or a couple people ahead of us that are helping pull you up or encourage you, and a few behind us that you're reaching back, I think, and pulling up with you. So, it's like, I think when you're in that sweet spot, which I can say is such a pleasure to be in right now, there's just purpose. you're like, wow, I know where I'm going. And then when I don't, I know who to go to re-steer me in the right direction, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah.
So go to Robin Tate, Tate, LLC.com to work with Robin, find out more about her, and just to get to know her because she's awesome. So Robin, thank you again for coming on. Don't hang up because we're going to talk after, but I want to thank you with the listeners still here to say anybody that hasn't turned it off yet, thanks for sticking around.
Thank you, Kristin. This has been so fun.
Absolutely. Totally fun. These are the days I look at my calendar and go, oh, what a great day. I get to talk to Robin, that kind of thing. All right, listeners, thank you for tuning in, and we will catch you on the next show.
But will you ride the low, low, lows with me? Will you ride the low, low, lows with me?
One thing you can always count on at Mental Health News Radio Network and my show is that there will always be dogs around. Why? They are natural healers, excellent for your mental health. The original therapy dog Miles has something to say in just a moment. For now, please check out all of our amazing shows at mentalhealthnewsradionetwork.com and all your favorite podcast apps. Until next time, I'm Kristin Sananta-Walker, and thank you for listening.
And I can ride the low, low, lows with me. I can ride the